The Last Airbender live action is a Netflix original anime that has one of my favorite scenes from any media in the past 10 years.
My cabin!
I'm honest, I cried uncontrollably. But it's also a frustrating, corny, beautiful piece of mess that has caused millions of people online to make Reddit accounts that hate on it. So, what was the point of reimagining this beloved story? Why do people have a right to be angry? And why do I still defend this show despite knowing all of these issues? Well, let's sit back, relax, and cope. Because if you're a hater, I'm not gonna lie, this one's gonna be a tough one to convince you otherwise.
Whatever happens, happens.
When I first heard about a live-action Avatar series, I was hyped. Finally, a new way of looking at the Avatar series other than...
My name is Ang. And I'm the Avatar.
You know, this is a show that came out in 2005 and despite this, has stood the test of time as a masterpiece. And I've personally rewatched this 5 times now, which arguably is still 1/8 the amount of times I've rewatched Shrek 2, but that's still pretty good. I guess Netflix doesn't know how to promote a show anymore because in the lead up of the show airing, we hear nothing but scary articles and statements that did nothing but question how good this show could really be. And since then, the internet hasn't stopped ripping it to shreds.
Comes out and it sucks. I didn't want to turn this video into an Avatar review. Here we go.
Keep in mind, we first heard about this in 2018. Bro, that's like 32 years of internet hating. Everyone online looked at these rumors and went, why bring back a beloved show if you're just gonna change it up so much? The controversy kept piling up and everyone just got more and more pessimistic on this show on release. And on the 22nd of February, it finally came out. And Netflix Avatar was just as bad as everyone said it was. Not really. I actually kind of liked it. But the same way you chance your arm about McDonald's food from the fridge, it's a mixed bag of pure ecstasy and just broad content. Okay, so here's what's frustrating about this series. The show will open with an engaging bending battle, reassuring us that no expense has been spared for the CG. People turning into cinders in a way more graphic manner than the show. I'm loving it. And then there'll be scenes of Aang flying. Okay, what? You get to see a real bond between Aang and his mentor Gyatso, something we never got to see from the cartoon. That along with the genocide of the airbenders, this show is a lot more graphic than the original. And then after that, we get one of the most unapologetic exposition dump monologues I have ever seen. Just stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. More amazing CG. And then this scene.
Hey, Skunky, why'd you pick on someone your own size? I didn't mean me.
Did Drake write the show? This show is riddled with some honestly great fights and callbacks, but then between them we have some of the most Dan Schneider-esque scenes I've seen in a while. Okay, I realize I'm not really selling the show now, am I? Let's go back to the good stuff. The character interaction. Netflix Avatar writers describe the show as, quote, a remix, not a cover. You know, at first glance this sounds like a pretty damning header, but after watching the show, I get it. In its own way, it kind of makes me lean back in my chair wondering how such a messy show gave me a new angle to look at my favorite cast of characters. You know, that's saying a lot because these guys are pretty fleshed out. For example, while they did get rid of Sokka's alt-right pipeline behavior, they replaced it with some added scenes of his obsession to protect those around him and showing exactly it stemming from these cruel words of his father pointing out his incompetence. Probably where a lot of his insecurity comes from. This is still Sokka. Aang admittedly is a lot less goofy and lighthearted as the show progresses because he's shown in a much more visceral, painful way just what his absence has done to the world at large. He's a scared little kid with the world on his shoulders and wants to run from his responsibility. That's still Aang. New and old friends become a much more twisted version of their former selves. It was heartbreaking to see cheerful Goofy Boomy become this bitter king.
Who gets the last of the food scraps, the orphanage or the soldiers? You have to make choices like that day after day, year after year, and that's just to save this one city.
So many added scenes to give further context on characters and relations, but none of them was more powerful, more potent, and tear-jerking than the scene of a boy saving an old broken man from his mind, and the old man vowing to protect the boy at all times. Yeah, I think it's time to talk about this scene. Iroh is a man that has taught me a lot throughout his actions and wise words, and such a man in the world of Avatar makes absolutely zero sense. How is a firebending prince so compassionate and caring for other people despite having a history laced in violence and tyranny? I mean, yes, we did get some context on this in the animated show in the episode Tales of Ba Sing Se. And I was watching over this episode for research, and I saw a comment that really pointed out the metaphorical scenes of Iroh helping boys in their journey of learning as a way to cope with never being able to fully do so with his son. Giving joy to the baby when he was crying, teaching the young kids when to fight or flight, and instructing the young man to have good people around him and believe in himself. These are all things he would tell his son if he was still alive, if the soldier boy came marching home. So, how does the live action develop on this? Well, it doesn't shy away from Iroh's grief or past actions. The lives he's destroyed with his past are constantly reminded to him, and he's not a man who's blameless, but he's also not a man who sits in his grief anymore, because when he was at his lowest, darkest point, he found a light to latch onto. The funeral scene is amazing because it is the metaphoric death and rebirth of Iroh. Imagine having to sit in a room full of people who congratulate you on your son's death. A death that you encouraged him to charge into. Everyone around you is calling it an honorable sacrifice that you no longer have a son? It'd break anybody into two. The weakest get no sympathy, and such is the Fire Nation way. And it was only when Zuko spoke his heart that Iroh saw things differently. Zuko clearly points out that Iroh's son's contribution to the world wasn't just from his military career, but kind encouragement to a boy who had hard expectations of a prince to live up to. It's the same compassion that Lieutenant extends to Zuko, that is the same compassion Zuko now extends to Iroh, and he sits by Iroh and shoulders his pain with him. Another small yet powerful gesture to give strength to the weak. If Lieutenant was able to give hope and strength in such a small yet powerful way, then his life meant something. This fire within Zuko's heart reignited Iroh's will to live. You can literally see the fog lift from his eyes as he comes to this realization and slowly raises his head that this life he still has is still meaningful. It still holds value to teach Zuko and care for him, to guide him through life when he couldn't with Lieutenant. So it doesn't matter if Zuko messes up again and again and again and again. Iroh will always be there for him, with a place for Zuko to come marching home back to.
It'll be a very long time before we return home.
Home. Everything I need is on this boat.
This was a completely new scene, yet it consolidated what we already knew. Iroh, the man that would sacrifice himself for his nephew in a heartbeat. The man that cried not because of the betrayal of his nephew, but because he had thought his nephew had lost his way. He's a man with a huge heart to love because he's lost so much. The extra scenes of sacrifice, pain, anger, trauma, war. This is what Avatar was about. And this is what the live action was able to show us. I understand if what I pointed out is still not worth sitting through the weak attempts at humor or nitpicky changes to the story, but to say this show doesn't deserve at least a watch is an opinion I can't allow to go unchallenged. Avatar has influenced millions of lives beyond just being a decent show. It's inspired animators in their own works to be more creative, story writers to expand their minds on how to impact all demographics, and self-development to spark within each and every one of us when we see these people grow. We shouldn't crucify a whole production because of a few questionable choices of a few. I felt the passion for this show come out of the VFX artists, to the actors, to the writers, to the environment designers. these guys are fans.
Watch what I did, watch what Dev did, take what you want, but it's your turn.
Exactly.
Like, forget what we did also.
Absolutely.
Because Dallas, it's your turn, Like, let's see your Zuko, let's go.
For me, it started with the animated series.
When I watched the show, I was doing it just to study my character. Wait, this is pretty good. I kind of like this, so I watched it again. Then I said that to myself 23 more times.
Greg, who took over the voice afterwards, who was so kind to reach out to me on Twitter and offer his support as well.
Look, I get it. Although the original creators did walk out, I think for what we got, there's still something left here to salvage and take away from. The show was definitely a mess at times, but it was an enjoyable mess. A mess with redeeming qualities. I tell anyone dying for Avatar content to go watch and make their own opinion on it for themselves. I believe it's only up from here. But even if this ends up becoming a complete dumpster fire of a show in season 2, I will still defend the passionate, heart-wrenching scenes that make me appreciate the universe of Avatar even more. And maybe that's all I really need.
Like I said, all the tea I need.
There may come a day when you wish you'd spent more time with your teachers. You may be 100 years old, but you haven't lived for 100 years.
You must be willing to give up the weak to make yourself strong. That is what makes us the Fire Nation. That is why we sacrifice the 41st Division. That is what you must do.
Sometimes the weak can become stronger. Sometimes you just have to give them a chance.
I can't imagine a better person to have been given this power.
If you let me know whether or not you're still alive, there actually are a few of us who care about such things.
There are things in here that will reveal truths to humans. Truths they're never prepared to face.
He's the dude. I'm Pipsqueak.
Yo, if you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. If you couldn't tell, this wasn't as highly edited as my other videos. Decided to take a little bit of a break rather than a 2-week video. I wanted to get this out as soon as possible because I just saw how much hate this Avatar show was getting, and I had to get my 2 pieces. Because honestly, it's not that bad. But hey, like I just said, if you don't like it, you don't like it. We'll be going back to regular 2-week, maybe 3-week scheduling videos after this. I never asked this guys of you, so for the first time, I'm actually gonna ask you to like and subscribe and share it to someone if you think the video was cool. Yeah, man, I don't have anything else to say. Catch you guys in a bit, man. Peace.